Redditors of Reddit, what's the best joke you know? A pair of hunters from Illinois are out in the woods. Whilst descending a hill, one of them suddenly cries out in pain and falls to the bottom, clutching his chest as he hit the ground. The other hunter rushes to his side as his friend noticeably stops breathing. Pulling out his phone, he quickly dials 911. After a few rings, the dispatcher picks up. 911, what is your emergency? Asks the dispatcher. The hunter replies, I am out near Route 51. My friend has a heart attack. I think he is dead. What do I do? Asks the hunter. The dispatcher replies, it is okay, sir. Can you calm down and make sure that he is dead? The hunter replies, okay. The dispatcher hears some rustling over the phone, followed by the resounding boom of a 12 gauge. The hunter comes back on the line asking, okay, now what? Here's a classic. So a grandpa takes his grandson out fishing. The grandpa pulls out a smoke and lights it. The kid asks, hey grandpa, can I have one? And he says, does your dick touch your ass? And the kid says, well no. And grandpa says, there's your answer. You're too young. Then grandpa pulls out some whiskey and takes a few pulls off the bottle. Kid asks, hey, could I have a drink of that, grandpa? And grandpa says, does your dick touch your ass? Well, no it doesn't, says the kid. Grandpa says, well there's your answer. So the kid pulls out some cookies and starts snacking away on them, and grandpa says, gee kiddo, those cookies look pretty good. Could I have one? So the kid says, does your dick touch your ass? And grandpa says, why yes it does. And the kid says, good, you can go fuck yourself then. 3 men went to hell, and they stood before the devil. The devil asked the first man, what did you do for a living? The man answered, I was a lumberjack. The devil said, then we will chop your penis off. He turned to the second man, asking the same question he asked the first. I was a fireman, said the second man. Then we will burn your penis off, said the devil. He turned to the third man, asking the same question he asked the other two. The third man thought about it, and finally answered the devil, I was a lollipop salesman.
Chomp. Crunch.
A boss had 2 employees. Alice and Jack. He only needed one, but they were hired at the same time and were both equally good at their job. He couldn't decide which to get rid of. He was sitting at a bar thinking about the situation. Alice walks in and sits beside him and asks, you seem down. What's wrong? The boss said, I need to either lay you or jack off. Alice says, well, please jack off. I'm tired. Reminds me of the guy who got a job at the pickle factory. He came home from his first day and his wife asked him how it was. He said it was great, but he couldn't stop watching the pickle slicer. He knew it was wrong, but he couldn't stop thinking about putting his penis in the pickle slicer. His wife thought that was a little bit weird. Time went on, but the woman's husband only became more withdrawn. He was obsessed. Finally she just confronted him. Look, I can tell this thinking is eating you alive. Ignoring it isn't working. You just have to get this out of your system. Her husband croaked out. Really, she exclaimed. I want you to stay late after work, after everyone has left. Make some kind of excuse. Then when there's nobody else around, just go ahead and put your penis in the pickle slicer. Then you'll finally be able to move on. He silently nodded his head and left for work. All day she was thinking about her husband and the difficult time he must be having. Finally, he arrived home, a little later than usual. He slammed his lunchbox down on the kitchen table. Well, I finally did it. I put my penis in the pickle slicer. Really? Asked his wife. Yes, I was thinking about it all day. Then, like you said, I stayed after quitting time and people had left. But my boss came back into the factory and caught me with my penis in the pickle slicer. Oh no, she exclaimed, I got fired. He responded mildly. I can see he would be upset, but that seems a little severe. What happened to the pickle slicer? Asked his wife. She got fired too. Priest and plumber go golfing. It's the last 3 holes after a close round. Plumber misses his swing and curses bugger missed. The priest is mildly offended and chastises him, you shouldn't curse in the Lord's presence. The plumber laughs it off and looks furtively over his shoulder. Next hole, the plumber is distracted and goofs on the putting green. He can't help but curse bugger this. The priest scolds him, I told you, if you curse again may the Lord strike you down. The priest takes the lead. On the last hole, The plumber is sweating from the pressure, practicing his putting move. 1 point separates them on the green. He swings, connects, and the ball rolls on the lip of the hole and pivots off target into the sand bunker. Fkin FCK, the plumber rants. Before the priest can chime in, a mighty rumble is heard, the thick clouds overhead part and a bolt of lightning screams through the air. The priest is struck dead and a voice from the cloud says, "Bugger, missed." I love this. Another priest joke for you. A trucker is on a long haul drive when he sees a lawyer standing at the side of the road trying to hitchhike. Naturally, the trucker drifts gently over and clips the lawyer with his bumper, sending the guy rolling into the ditch. A few miles later he sees a priest standing at the side of the road trying to hitchhike. Naturally he drifts over to a stop and gives the priest a ride. Yet a few miles later, they see a local politician standing at the side of the road trying to hitchhike. Naturally, the trucker starts to drift over to clip the politician, but as he gets close, he considers his immortal soul, and swerves away at the last moment. He looks over at the priest and says, "I'm sorry, father, I don't know what I was thinking." The priest replies, "Don't worry my son, I got him with the door." I walked into the pharmacy and asked for some deodorant, the bull kind. Just 4 under the arms is fine. What did Cinderella say when she got to the ball? Makes gagging sound. I told this to my family when I was like 11. Went over well.
The only thing so far that's made me laugh out loud is the mental image of someone telling their family that joke at the age of 11.
Why does the Little Mermaid wear seashells? Because she's too big for bee shells. What do you get if you insert human DNA into a goat? Kicked out of the petting zoo. 4 older gents who were college buddies met for dinner for the first time in 20 years after ordering. One of the men got up to use the bathroom. One of the men boasted about his son. "My son's so successful. He started at the bottom valeting cars, worked and saved money, and he just started his second dealership for his friend's birthday. He bought him a Maserati." All the men clapped and nodded. The next man said about his son, "My son's so smart. He started as a junior aircraft technician at a small charter, put himself through engineering, and he has his own private jet company with millions in revenue. For a friend's birthday he bought his friend a twin-engine turboprop." Again all the men wiped tears from their eyes. The third man said about his son, "My son is a hard worker. He started mowing lawns and went into trades. He is the president of a company that builds subdivisions. For his buddy's birthday he gave his friend a new house." All the men clapped and sat back enjoying their son's accomplishments. The fourth man came back, sat down and asked why they were crying. After finding out, he said, "Yeah, you wouldn't believe it, but my son's a male stripper and his birthday was last month and 3 of his clients gifted him a car, a plane and a house." I bought the worst thesaurus the other day. Not only was it terrible, it was also terrible. Why does a chicken coop only have 2 doors? Because if it had 4, it would be a chicken sedan. A pirate walks into a bar with a steering wheel in his pants. Bartender: "Hey, you know you have a steering wheel in your pants." Pirate: "Yeah. It's driving me nuts." My grandpa would tell this joke called a Yangtze River story. Relatives would look at me and say, "Get comfortable." He finally took the time to tell me at my cousin's wedding. There once was a family that lived on the Yangtze River. They had an outhouse right on the river, and one day, it was pushed off the bank and floated downstream. The father of the family lined up his 3 sons. Young, teen, and almost adult. They lined up, facing where the outhouse used to be. The father asked the boys one by one, "Did you push the outhouse into the Yangtze River?" The youngest turned his head to the left, staring at the house they all lived in. It was a big red house that they all worked together to paint last summer. It was cold now, with winter approaching and the paint needing another coat soon. The father went to the next boy, "Did you push the outhouse into the Yangtze River?" This son looked straight up, swallowing hard so that his throat made an audible sound. Finally, he asked his eldest on, "Did you push the outhouse into the Yangtze River?" The boy locked his father's gaze, but declared, "No, I did not." The father pulled out a pastry from the nearby village. "I am going to tell you a story. And by the end, you will tell me who pushed the outhouse into the river." The boys all fidgeted, but were ready to hear their father's story. One day, a little boy chopped down his father's cherry tree. Instead of lying, he told the truth, and his father rewarded him, gave him candy, and he grew up to be George Washington, the President of the United States. Slowly, the youngest boy stepped forward. "It was I, father. I pushed the outhouse in the river." With a flash, the father had his youngest bent over his knee, his belt in his hand, lashing hard. Crying out, the boy shrieked, you said," the father said. George Washington's father wasn't sitting in the cherry tree. This is the end, my only friend. Post your favorite jokes in the comments, and be sure to subscribe.